Over the past several days, there has been a reaction to the U.S. Capitol protest fueled by right-wing supporters of Donald Trump who believe that the election was not fair. I'm not getting into the particulars of any protest, right? My position on protest has been consistent, unlike a lot of other people out there. It has been, if protesters break the law, they need to be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But what is happening now is, to me, a far bigger threat than any man or any business can actually provide in the American marketplace of ideas. This stat I couldn't believe. Simultaneously, in concert, via what I believe is collusion, which would violate antitrust law, listen to all of the places that have suddenly decided to ban Donald Trump. All right, I'm reading from a list. Facebook, Twitter, Google, Spotify, Snapchat, Instagram, Shopify, Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest. All of those platforms are either banning or restricting access to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Regardless of what your politics are, this is collusion. This is big tech going full on antitrust in terms of its impact on the marketplace of ideas. I'm not a particularly strong partisan, okay? I don't sit around worried what somebody thinks about abortion or religious rights or what you think about school choice or anything else. I am a big believer in the marketplace of ideas. And some people out there say, well, these private companies have terms of service, and if you violate those, then you can be banned and it's not a big deal. I disagree, and let me explain why. First of all, I think almost everybody listening to me would agree that China, which has the Great Wall of China internet blockage, is not in any way doing things that equate with human rights or basic First Amendment freedoms. China is restricting its citizens' access to the internet as a governmental entity. That is something that is not allowed for the United States government to do, okay? But the default effect of big tech companies deciding what you can and cannot read when they are colluding together in an antitrust sphere like is going on right now is a fundamental violation of American law, and I also believe it violates the spirit and principle of the marketplace of ideas, which holds that as many of us as possible in a democratic society need to be engaging in debate so that we can determine what the best course of action is at all. That means that our debate can be antagonistic, it can be robust, it can be uninhibited, it can at times make people's feelings hurt. But that is what is required in order to advance the cause of liberty and allow a democracy to flourish in a tech age. Let me explain what's going on and why we are in a different route ending up at the same place that China is. I am far more terrified of the idea of right and wrong opinions than I am of any opinion, however much I may disagree with it. I will defend to the ends of the earth your opinion, even if I disagree with it. You're right to that opinion, even if I disagree with it. What we are seeing now, and I'm going to use Parler as an example here. Parler was because a lot of people say, well, if you don't like Twitter's terms of service, then start your own internet site that balances out your opinions in a different way, and you can compete in the marketplace. That's what capitalism is. Well, that's what Parler did. Parler, if you're not familiar with it, created its own app that was going to embrace freedom of speech more than Google, more than Twitter, and they were going to allow an uninhibited and robust debate there. It became the #1 most popular app on the App Store until Apple and Google both simultaneously decided that you out there, no matter who you are, should not be allowed to download Parler at all. As part of that, they also then went to Amazon, critics of Parler did, and they said, hey, Amazon Web Services, you should not be hosting Parler at all. You should shut this down. So trillion-dollar companies, Amazon, Apple, and Google, all colluded and conspired at the exact same time to decide to take down Parler. What did they cite as justification? The fact that some users of Parler were attempting to set up protests against the election results. So, I use Parler. I put up a picture of my family at Harry Potter World. I share the columns that I write at OutKick. I haven't fomented rebellion. I haven't even tried to set up any kind of protest for anything on the face of the planet. Most people use social media without violating the law. Some do not. That doesn't mean you shut down the entire site. Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram were filled all summer long with people setting up protests on behalf of Black Lives Matter. Many of those protests turned violent. Buildings were burned down. People were killed. No one suggested that Facebook and Twitter and all of these other social media sites, Instagram and the like, should be shut down because some people who protested committed violent crimes and the protests were being organized on those apps. In fact, it would have been called racist and fascist and authoritarian in nature if anyone had even suggested that those apps should be shut down to prevent people from being able to exercise their First Amendment rights, meet with each other, and go out and protest. See, what gets people fired up who don't appreciate me, and there are a lot of those people, is they don't understand that there's a logic behind what I argue. I'm not making a decision, content-based discrimination-wise, based on whether I agree with you on any political issue at all. I'm simply saying that the role of companies should be, and the federal government, to apply an even standard that is content neutral in terms of what speech is permitted and what speech is not permitted. This becomes significant because Parler is doing what everybody argues Parler should do, creating a competitor to Twitter. But when the Apple App Store and Google both say you can't get this app on your phone, and when Amazon Web Services then say we refuse to host your site on our servers, how in the world can a company compete when they are being disallowed to compete by major for-profit tech companies that are all colluding together? This is a monstrous antitrust issue. And it should concern you because the marketplace of ideas is where new ideas come from. Things that used to be on the fringe become more mainstream. In fact, for small opinions, minority opinions, the marketplace of ideas is even more valuable than it is for majority opinions. Because majority opinions have protection, often under politicians or political positioning, whereas minority positions are often considered outside the mainstream. The way they fight their way into the mainstream is through the marketplace of ideas. So if you are cheering Donald Trump being banned from all those different companies I just ran through, or if you are cheering Parler not being able to reach its audience, you are engaging in an incredibly dangerous and censorious act that may one day redound upon you. And in a larger context, what we have created is a Chinese wall inside of America where American big tech companies are doing what the American government would not be able to do under our existing law. China and the United States are ending up with a significantly regulated internet, which people in positions of power are making decisions about what people can and cannot see. I disagree with it completely.